Welcome to the Business Behind Your Business, conversations to help your business grow and thrive. Hi, I'm Paul Sweeney, founder of Pretium Solutions, Chartered Accountants and Certified Business Advisors, hosting the Business Behind Your Business. So welcome to the Business Behind Your Business, and today I have with me Raj Nathoo from Keystone Business Advisory, and we're going to be looking at this whole idea of staying motivated, particularly in a stressful and challenging time like most businesses are experiencing. So Raj, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you and the listeners out there.
Yeah, great to have you on board. Now, Raj, you've got quite an extensive amount of experience in working with business owners and getting the best out of employees. So do you want to tell us a bit more about how you come across this experience?
Yeah, actually stumbled across it back in my uni days when I decided to go down the path of studying industrial psychology, something that no one heard of in my friends circle and in my family at least. And, you want to do something different to what everyone else is doing in the family, because I had a family of accountants and bookkeepers and things, and I wanted to do something different. And actually fell in love with this whole idea of understanding the human psychology in the workplace. I never knew that there was actually a field like that. You heard about psychology and things like that, but not specific to the workplace. And back in the day, it was called industrial psychology. And so I went and majored in that and studied it further. And then over the years, I just carried on developing my skills through, self-assessment that have come out over the years that have been developed with years and years of research, such as areas of emotional intelligence and motivation and behavior and attitude in the workplace. So that sort of just always keeps me intrigued about how people behave in the workplace compared to how they behave in their home setting, which is different or could be the same. Some people behave differently when they're faced with different situations, the challenges of different situations. And some people are motivated when faced with different types of situations. That is what we're going through around the world right now.
So given that, it is a challenging time and there's no doubt about that. So how do you, as a business owner, stay motivated in the first place? And then you, as well as being motivated yourself, you've then got the challenge of motivating your employees. So how do you, as the owner, stay motivated in these times?
Yeah, look, that's a great question. And look, firstly, everything begins with the business owner, especially if the business is part of an SME. So, this is no doubt a challenging time for all of us, most especially business owners who are trying to keep their doors open and keep people employed also at the same time. So, business owners have to show a brave face, even though there's so much of uncertainty going on around us. All of us, we're all business owners, you and I included in this. And in our own business, we're a partnership of 3 people. So we went through a similar kind of mindset back in March already. And we said, how do we address what's going on around us? Because back in March, nobody knew what we were heading for. Let's accept that. And so one of the first things we started telling ourselves really is that let's take a couple steps back and not get emotional about it. Anyone that may have read that book, 6 Steps of Thinking, will know that, address each problem in isolation rather than letting emotion come into play. So we were asking ourselves all kinds of important questions, but the most important ones were, what are our values? What are our passions? And are we still committed to our original path that we took when we started this business, And that's the same kind of things I would advise business owners right now as well. Asking the most important why question. Why am I doing this? And remind yourself of why this business that you started actually matters to you. Look at the progress maybe you made over the years and the networks you've built and the reputation that you have in the marketplace. And then maybe even re-examine your values and your passion for the work that you're doing. My firm belief is that you will find that when you have an alignment between your values and your passion and your motivation, then you're going to find that there's a higher propensity for you to surge forward and keep in the game, stay in the game, And one of the ways of doing that, I would suggest, that's what I do anyway, many times when I'm faced with any kind of problem, is find some quiet space for me, a quiet room somewhere, and take out a pen and a paper or a pencil. I have a black diary that I keep on my desk all the time, and I just start writing my thoughts out. And it's important to actually write things down rather than keeping it between your two ears. Because when you actually write things down, things become a bit more clearer. Because when you go back and read what you actually wrote, sometimes you'll find that some of those issues are totally trivial. And, just plain mixed up with a whole lot of other stuff in your head that makes no sense at all. So I always tend to write a lot of things down. And you'll find that if you do that, what you're actually faced with might just require a little bit of retweaking of your strategy right now, the way you're doing things, So firstly, be open to change, because what's going on around us is forcing us to adapt and adopt what's going on around us, right? So how do we accept change? Secondly, stop listening to the negativity around you. There's so much of news, and obviously news, the news cycle today being as it is going to spin out news faster than what you can absorb it. And there's so much of negativity coming through. How do you account for all of that? So rather stay away from it. Right. I would say that rather focus your time on look at what's actually changing around you in terms of the market behavior, your consumer behavior. Where are they buying? What are your customers doing at the moment? What are your competitors doing? Let's rather focus on that. How do your customers prefer buying from you now compared to how they were almost a year ago? Are they adopting more of your competitors' products rather than yours? And then the fourth thing I would advise all business owners to do is, and probably one of the most important things I would say, is actually talk to your team. Listen to what your team has to, ideas that your team has to offer to you. Because many times they know the answers and they will not tell you if you don't actually ask them. So that's very important. So, because they can give you the best intelligence that you can have, because they know your market, they know your business, they know your customers, and they know your systems. It's just funny that just last week, I'm a certified motivational mapper. So we actually map people's motivations in the workplace. And last week we were having a conference call with fellow mappers from the UK and Europe. And one of the mappers from Hungary, in fact, her name's Susanna, and I actually told her that I will mention her in this podcast that we're having, because I said that because she wanted a copy of it, and why I'm mentioning her name in particular is because she shared a story with me, which I thought was quite relevant. And she was talking to businesses in Hungary. And she actually used the case study of, I'm not sure if you're familiar, Paul, with the Patient 31 story in South Korea, where one person spread the coronavirus to a number of other people, and 29 other people died in the process, sadly. And 4,800, well, it's claimed so that 4,800 other people also got affected by it. Now, how much of that is actually been validated, I'm not sure. I'll say hypothetically, rather, let's say that this happened the way it did. Imagine now if you're a business owner and you are demotivated, how are you going to spread that to the rest of your team as well? So as a business owner, I'll end up answering your question by saying that everything begins with you as a business owner in terms of your motivations. And the more positive you are, the more that positivity spreads to the rest of your team as well.
Yeah. And I think at the time you mentioned about having to be ready, open to change and look at what you might need to do differently to service your customers. But you also, let's go back to this idea of visiting the values of the business owner, because what we find is that often the business evolves to such a way of doing things that there is a departure often from the values or the core ideas of why they want to be in business and what they want to do for their customers. And you only have to be off target a little bit before you end up being a long way off target. So is this a good time to revisit what the values of the business are, what you want your business to deliver? Is this a really good time to do this?
I think it is, in a sense that whilst I'm not saying that as a business you need to go off onto a totally new strategy or new tangent, but let me put it to you this way rather. A year ago, we had clients, when we were approaching our clients and we were speaking to potential prospects about their business and revisiting their goals or looking again at their strategy or things like that, many of them would say, I don't have time. I'm too busy, right? Because anything that requires brain work, you're always too busy. We found our own coaching experience that anything that requires a lot of mental work, we tend to delay. It's a natural human behavior. Anything that's easy to do, that's operational, that can be done with quick decisions, we tend to address those first. But yet the things that require brain work are the ones that are the most important things, because they can actually set your business up for massive growth going into the future, as you would know. So I would say, going back to your question, is that, while the business landscape has changed on its head, and to survive, businesses need to identify new levels of efficiency. And that's what's and that's what's actually my observation of what's playing out in the last few months, that, some businesses are obviously addressing cost-cutting measures, like maybe laying off people, unfortunately, or putting people on some days off and some days on. Businesses are saving costs really by, getting people to work from home. To a great extent, they're saving a lot of overheads there. Just refreshments, if you discount it just at the expense on your income statement alone, it's sort of gone down drastically. So, it really doesn't matter what size business you are, but you still need, as a business owner, you still need to revisit from time to time what your values are, what your passions are, and if any of that has changed right now. Now, sometimes to be open to change means that you just may need to look at things in a different way, because your business may not need to change drastically. It just may need to be tweaked. Your delivery model may need to be looked at again. So look at things in your value chain, such as your operational aspects, your marketing and sales related stuff, your logistical things. Let's take one example, a simple example, like home food delivery now. That's become like a thriving business right now. And those guys, any restaurants or takeaway businesses that have not understood that they had to change their business model to capture the home food delivery market, they're not going to survive very long. But yet the idea of this change in that business wasn't a massive change. You had to adopt to things like Menulog or Uber Eats or things like that, and you've already got a delivery channel ready to go right there. But it required you to have a mindset change within your business. So that's just a simple example of what I'm talking about here, that you may not need to change your entire business. You just may need to tweak it a bit.
So just tidying up some of those, I guess, operational aspects that may not be possible anymore, or may not be the most efficient way of doing things. Or particularly, I noticed actually eating out now, there is a lot more, certainly a lot more attention to cleanliness of facilities, but also there seems to be an even more attention to customer care, which has come about now, improving the facilities, improving the venue, and how comfortable that is for the customer, and then of course the customer service. That's got to result in a better experience and hopefully more repeat business.
Yeah, we went out to Rouse the other day to have lunch for my son's birthday, and the moment you enter the restaurant, you have to obviously scan your phone to get to notify them who you are, and that's all for your own safety, really speaking. And if a business is not prepared to adopt that kind of safety standard today, then that actually, for me as a consumer, tells me that you don't really care about me. But the fact that you've got it now, the messaging is different compared to a year ago, where it was an inconvenience to scan your phone. Today, in my mindset, it's you actually care about me. That's why you're telling me to scan my phone.
Yes. Yeah. So there's been more of a focus on customer service and customer care that's come out, particularly in the hospitality industry. Are we seeing changes in how we that same kind of care for our employees in the work environment? Is that coming as a higher level of importance in how we manage our employees?
Well, that's also another good question, Paul. And the thing is that one challenge a lot of organizations are going to have now and are having already is that they don't have that spatial connection with the employees like they did in the past, where everyone was working in the same building or same floor or same room or whatever the case may be. So with remote working now, the only connection people really have is either through video conferencing like you and I are doing today, or the phone calls or things like that, or emails. But there's no personal connection anymore. And so it's important for managers, for HR managers, for people and culture managers especially, to be in constant touch with employees and just find out, are you okay? How you guys are doing? What's your motivations? What's your challenges? Things like that. And from what I'm reading, organizations that are doing this, they're finding that employees are a bit more open than what they were a year ago. They're more willing to share their thoughts and their feelings because they're in a private, comfortable setting that they're familiar with, which goes back to, one of our tools that we use, which is DISC, which is quite popular around the world, where we actually can monitor a person's behavior in their natural environment compared to their adapted environment, which is usually their work environment. So the natural environment naturally is their home place. Now, if a person is speaking from their home environment, it's a comfortable setting. Their chair, their office, their room, wherever they're working, speaking from is something that they're familiar with. And they tend to then open up a bit more about their feelings rather than being in an office where they are taken into a one-on-one meeting room. And at the back of their mind are thoughts always, what is everyone else thinking about what we are talking about here? Like this, there's no such thing, right? So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, so I think that whole understanding of what your employees, what's important to them, and how does that relate to how effective they are in work, but more than just the work. So the happier your employees are, and the more engaged, the better the outcome is. And I think this communication concept, I think if nothing else, the importance of communicating with your employees, with your customers, has really come to the front during this period. Is that communication? More now than ever is really important.
Definitely. In fact, just on that, I can even expand on what you asked earlier. There is that. You might be familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs theory, which was a theory developed by Abraham Maslow, a psychologist, back in 1940s, 1943, around there. And he wanted to address what motivates people. And strangely enough, during this COVID period, an organization here in Australia started using Maslow's theory to try and understand whether it's still valid, given what we are going through right now in the world. And they found that people that were on a higher level on Maslow's pyramid, that means at their esteem or self-actualization level, where they were happy and with what they were doing, looking forward to being promoted or moving up in the organization or even changing jobs or things, suddenly they've gone down to lower levels trying to fulfill their basic needs like, food and shelter and paying their rent or paying their mortgage or, basic safety needs. And if as an organization, as a manager, as an HR manager, people and culture manager, if you're not aware of these things about your employees, you're going to be out of touch with what's going on in their life. And so this is all critical. And the only way, as you just pointed out, communication, the only way you can really know that is by actually constantly communicating with your employees or with your team.
Mm-hmm. And I think there's also been a bit of a change around monitoring performance in terms of visual appearance of doing things to actual looking at outcomes generated by employees, particularly in a professional or a service industry. There used to be, I guess, this way of, if you weren't there being visible, then you weren't doing the job.
Yeah.
But now we seem to be looking more at outcomes and I guess more trust in your employees.
Yeah. In fact, you've actually mentioned a really important part of our motivation tool that we use actually, and that is that when we use this with organizations, we can actually let managers know which employees actually don't like being micromanaged, which employees prefer working in isolation or given the freedom. They prefer being given the freedom and the trust. Just let me know what I need. Give me the deadline when you want it by, what standard you're expecting from me, and then leave me to my own devices, and I will deliver on time. Whereas there are other employees who are finding it quite challenging working from home simply because they don't have that human interaction like they did in a actual workplace where they could have a chat over coffee or meet at a water hole or whatever the case may be, or just walk into someone's office and just chit chat. They don't have that opportunity and miss it, even though they have this kind of forum that they can use, this kind of technology that they can use. It's not the same as just walking into someone's office and just having a chit chat, right? So there are those employees that are actually missing that, and those employees are finding working from home quite challenging right now.
So it's not for everybody, this working from home, because there's a talk that the new normal will be that more employees will work from home as a requirement. That may not be the best way to motivate your employees, or not every employee. Some will be very motivated to work from home, but it's not going to be, I think, a blanket strategy that's going to be effective.
Yeah. No, it's not. In fact, I just read a survey yesterday from the USA that came out where they actually addressed this very question. And most employees said they love working from home, they prefer working from home, but their preference is a hybrid model where some days of the week you actually come into the office. Like, in fact, I use my wife as an example. She has to go into the office 2 days out of this 5 days to work, not only just to attend meetings or things like that, because that can be done through Zoom or Microsoft Teams or whatever, but just because managers want to know how you are, how you're feeling, and that's when they actually have that human interaction. So she can choose which 2 days of the week she wants to go in, and the other 3 days she works from home, and that applies to the rest of the team as well.
So hybrid model seems to be working quite well.
Yeah.
And one of the other things that's come out during this period where a lot of people were working from home is that more people had time for looking after themselves. So more time for exercise, more time for hobbies, personal enjoyment. And as a result, their well-being sort of is improved, but also their quality of their work has improved in a similar way. Are we going to see, or in your opinion, are we going to see a new model where that personal well-being is more a focus for employment arrangements?
I think I can definitely speak from my own point of view and my own experience from what I'm seeing around me. I recently moved into this area where I'm living now about a year ago. And what I'm noticing in this past few months compared to when I moved in here a year ago is that I see more parents out in the streets with their kids on their bicycles, and just not far from my home there's a park, and I see more parents out in the park with their kids during the lunch break or after work hours than I ever did a year ago. And that sort of spells for me or tells me that this is probably one of the main reasons why people prefer working from home, because they can have that opportunity to spend that quality time that they could not. Because if you really look at the traveling alone was literally 2 hours to 3 hours a day getting to and from work every single day. Now you've actually got those hours to spend with your family. And research is actually showing that employees are actually working longer hours working from home. So there's actually more output for organizations from the employees. Just that employees want that opportunity, that flexibility to decide which hours they want to work, or how long they want to work at night, or things like that.
So that's a bonus that's come out of this situation. I think is that we're discovering, and it's not just the trendy organisations or the startup culture that's discovering this, that there is a benefit in having employees more motivated, in better health. We've got a lot less presenteeism from people turning up to work and not being motivated and not being healthy. I think we're seeing a change in accepted culture generally, that there is room for, and there's going to be certainly a lot more room for working from home, but also you mentioned this hybrid culture where you still can foster that communication, that random interaction with other employees to improve, I guess, a sense of belonging as part of the organisation, and that motivation.
Yeah. No, definitely. I mean, I think, if anything, what we're learning from this whole past COVID period really is that people's values are changing. So it's not only just a business owner, but also employees. Their values are also changing, where they're realizing that, okay, what's most important for me right now? And they're readdressing those, realigning those, and they're rediscovering how they can actually change their working style or their preferences as well. In the beginning of COVID, again, if I use my wife as an example, she really struggled working from home because she couldn't identify with this idea of working alone without anyone to talk to. If you ask her now, she actually hates going into the office 2 days a week. And she prefers working from home completely because she loves it. She can listen to a little music on the side while she's working, work at a pace, and maybe even work longer into the evening if she wants to. You know, she loves it. The flexibility is there. It wasn't there before.
So I think we're seeing that we're recognizing that people work in different ways and have different motivators. And the challenge has been for employers to actually identify what motivates their employees in the past. And often there'll be one approach that's dictated, this is how we do things in the office. And you get this disjointed culture where it doesn't suit everybody, and that one person that doesn't fit in may not perform at their potential. They're unhappy, and you talked about this spread of negativity and eroding the positive nature, the positive culture of that organisation. So I think this has got to be a good thing.
Yeah. I mean, again, not trying to sell any product or whatever, but if we look at the tools that we use, we can identify obviously motivations with individuals and then motivations at the team level as well. And how does it help managers? It helps managers in a way of then identifying what kind of projects they can give to which type of people, or even how to set up small teams or mini teams for specific projects, what kind of people that they need within those teams. So when I talk about change, we're talking about not only change in terms of what's happening, adapting to change what's happening in the marketplace, but also adapting to scientific methodologies that you can implement within your business that are proven, and large organizations are using them, and they're successful in using them. And the thing is that SMEs can use this as well. These tools are available for everyone today. As we know, technology is such a massive enabler today, and it's easily available to everyone.
Yeah, I agree that technology's made a lot of those tools that were formerly only available to large organizations, available to small and medium organizations.
Yeah.
So there's so much out there, though. Where is a good place to look? I know you've got some really useful summaries of the tools, or some of the better tools on your website. Would that be a good starting point?
Yeah, you can visit our website, but you can also do research as well. I would say that the most important thing that we need to look at today is first understanding what's actually happening out there. So understanding the dynamics of the marketplace. So do your research. There's so much of information out there today on the internet, but some of that information may not be relevant to you, right? But then there's people like what we have on this advisory board, the Business Behind Your Business Advisory Board. There's a huge team of people with amazing experience that can give you really great advice on what you should do with any of the challenges that you're facing practically today. What I like about the Business Advisory Board, the makeup of the Business Advisory Board, is the variation of skills that have been offered and services that have been offered. And yeah, I can't think of any business that can't benefit from that kind of information. Then there's, professional reports that come out, like here in Bella Vista, we have a company called McCrindle, for argument's sake. And I don't know if you have read any of their reports, Paul, but, they put out some really good stuff. And what I like about their reports is that it's Australian-centric. So much of stuff you find on Google is very American, or mostly American, that is, centric. And we tend to just want to adopt to what's happening in the USA, which may not necessarily be the case. And in fact, just 2 weeks ago, McCrindle released a research report called Understanding the Future Consumer. And I read that, and it was a really good read, and I would advise anyone to just go to their website and find it. It's freely available there on their website, and they have tons of other amazing free reports as well. I don't know McCrindle. I've never engaged with them, so I'm not, getting any brownie points out of this, except to say that, they have some really good reports, and I've always been impressed with their work. So the important thing is do your research. Every tool out there is not necessarily the one you need to adopt, but what you can do as a start is consult people like the advisory board.
So there's plenty of tools available, and there are, as you said, if you've got a central place, a reputable place to get that information, so such as an advisory board or some reputable sources of reports, and McCrindle certainly are a reputable organisation and have published some very good reports, particularly on the Australian market and demographics. So there's a lot out there. What's the one key thing that you would like to leave business owners with? What's the one key thing that they must pay attention to in this new environment?
Well, I think the first most important thing is that this time will pass, like everything else, like the GFC, like the Great Depression. Everything has a time and place, and this time will pass too. So have that mindset firstly. But then the other thing is accept that the business terrain has changed. That we may not be able to go back to where the things were 12 months ago. And that even if some semblance of normality is regained, it will not be what it was before. Simply because consumers have gone to a different level. Your customers have gone to a different level, which means that you've got to change as well. And if you're going to be in that myopia of, now that things are going back to normal, I can go back to the way I was doing business, you're going to be mistaken, because your competitors are moving too. And you need to keep in touch with what they are doing as well. So whether it's adopting some technology, whether it's communicating with your customers in a different way, whether it's delivering goods to them in a way that they would like the goods to be delivered to them, all those kind of things is important for you to monitor. But then internally, speaking to your team and getting information and advice from your team and not going it alone, not thinking as a business owner that I know best. You may not, because you might have all the years of experience. You might have great vision. The whole business started on your vision. You can't take that away. But you have a great team behind you, and they may know your business better going forward. And it's always best to engage with them and learn from them and be open to share ideas from them as well.
Great. Well, that's some great things you've shared with us, Raj. And there's certainly a lot to take in and some guidance for business owners, particularly those that have really struggled with knowing, I guess, where they should be heading in this new environment or what they should be doing. There's some very good instructions there and some good wisdom. And and encourage anybody to look up some of the resources. I'll be in the show notes. And get in touch with Raj to find out more about this, because it is a key thing. The way of running a business has changed, and engagement and communication with not just your employees but your customers is going to be crucial. So thanks for sharing that today, Raj.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks for the opportunity. And
That's great.
Stay safe, everyone.
Not a problem. We're going to get Raj to come back in future, and we're going to tap into some more of Raj's experience talking around startup businesses. And we've had some good conversations in the background, so I'm looking forward to sharing some of those with the listeners, Raj.
I'm looking forward to it. Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Raj. Thanks for listening. Do you have a question you'd like our team of experts to answer? If you do, send your question to podcast@thebusinessbehindyourbusiness.com. To hear more from The Business Behind Your Business, don't forget to subscribe using your favourite podcast player. Or you can visit the businessbehindyourbusiness.com website.